In this video, we're going to make the neat system from Red Dead Redemption 2. We have our inner cores and the outer rings for our health, stamina, and deadeye. We can spend them, level up, and replenish using items. Then we're also going to apply this system to the previously made deadeye effect. Let's begin! Hello and welcome, I'm your Code Monkey, and this channel is all about helping you learn how to make your own games with in-depth tutorials made by a professional indie game developer. So if you find the video helpful, consider subscribing. Alright, so Red Dead Redemption 2 just came out on PC, and I figured this was a great time to look into some more systems. When the console version came out, I made a video on how to make a nice deadeye effect. So I can spawn a bunch of enemies, then I can enable deadeye, then I can tag my enemies, and then when I exit, there you go, they all get shot. So there's a very nice effect that was made completely from scratch in a previous video, so go check it out. The game slows down, the screen is tinted, the player marks the enemies, and when it goes back, it shoots them. Alright, great effect. Now in here, we're going to make the need system. This is a very interesting and very unique system. Essentially, it's split in two. So we have the inner core amount and the outer ring amount. So as I'm sprinting, I'm spending the ring amount, and as the ring amount is completely empty, it starts draining my core amount. And once that one is completely empty, there you go, I can no longer sprint, and now the ring amount is regenning very slowly. So the regen is based on how much the inner core amount is full. So as I spend it all, there you go, the regen is very slow. Now I can consume this item to replenish the core amount, and there you go, now the regen works much faster. So that's the interaction between the outer ring and the inner core amount. We have the health, the stamina, and the deadeye. So as I sprint, the stamina goes down. As I spawn some enemies and they shoot me, I have the health amount need going down. And then I have the deadeye, there you go, I enable it and it's going down, and I can tag my enemies. And you can see the core constantly going down. And if the core reaches empty, deadeye is automatically cancelled and it's activated. So there you go, all empty, and there you go, just like that. Now the regen is very slow, so I can consume some items in order to replenish my regen. Now this inventory system in here was also created fully from scratch in a previous video, so go check that out. So you can see that I can easily spawn some specific item types, and I can click to consume them, which then has a specific effect. Then with the button, I can also level up each of my stats. So I press this one, and there you go, see my stamina constantly going up, and just like this, I have max stamina. And if I press another button, I can cause it to go down, and all the needs work in the same way. Alright, so here is our very nice, neat system, just like it works in Red Dead Redemption 2. We have the health, the stamina, and the very cool deadeye effect. Alright, so this is our goal. Let's get to it. Okay, so here's our starting point. I have my cowboy character here, and I can walk around. I can spawn enemies that will approach and try to shoot me. Right now, as you can see, there's no health or stamina meters. So I can spawn a bunch of enemies, and I can also use the deadeye effect from a previous video. There you go, activate it, and boom, boom, boom. And there it is. Alright, great. So this is our starting point. Now with this, let's begin by making the UI elements. Now over here in the hierarchy, I have my canvas. So in here, let's make a new game object. Let's call this the UI needs. And let's extend it to occupy the entire play area. So extend, set everything to 0. Okay. Now let's start with just our stamina core. So inside, make another game object, call it the stamina core. And now inside, let's make a new UI image. And here, let's use the circle sprite. There it is. So this circle will be our ring. So let's rename this to the ring image. And now here we can actually use the awesome features from the UI image. So here we have the image type, and we can select it and change it from simple into filmed. And here on the filmed, you can see we have various fill methods. And radial 360 is exactly what we want. So here we have the fill amount, and as you can see, look at the sprite. Yep, we have a very nice rotating sprite. Now, instead of having the origin on the bottom, let's put it on the top. And yep, exactly like that. That's how we want our effect to go. Okay, so for example, this one being for the stamina. Let's say like this, we have our character using full stamina, and as we spend it, it goes down. As it regens, it goes back up. Very simple, very nice. So this is the current ring amount. Now underneath it, we have the total ring image. So let's duplicate this, call it the total ring image. And this one is going to be tinted in black. And this one goes under, so let's put it behind that one. Yep, just like that. So there you can see we have our current amount and the total amount. Now on top of these two, we have the simple circle background. And now on top, we have the core image. So in this case, for the stamina, let's drag the stamina icon just like that. This one is also filled, but it's not radial, but rather a vertical. So the origin is at the bottom, and just like this, stamina is full, and just like this, it's empty. Now let's size it accordingly. And underneath, we have the total core image. Alright, so just like this, we have the entire composition for our stamina need UI element. We have in here the core image that we can modify the fill amount as it depletes and it regenerates. Then underneath, we have the total core image to show the total amount. Then we have a simple background, and behind it we have the ring image, which is radial, so we move this in order to fill it up and spend it. And beneath it, we have the total ring amount, which we're going to increase as our stamina levels up. Alright, so let's just see this in-game. And yep, there it is. There's our awesome UI element. Okay, great. Now that we have the visual working, let's deal with some simple logic. So over here, let's make a new C# script. Let's call this the needs system and open it up. Now in here, we're first going to start off simple with just a single need for our stamina. And this will also be a simple class to get rid of mono behavior. All right, now the first thing we're going to need is the ring amount and the total ring amount. So that's our current and our total. Then we also need a core amount. Now let's make a constructor. And in our constructor, let's set all of the default values. We're going to make them in the range of 0 to 100. So up here, let's define a const for the maximum. And let's start off with a bit less than half. All right, so just like that. So on the total, we have 40 out of a possible of 100. The ring amount starts off completely full, and then we have our core amount at our maximum. So now let's try to use this need. So in here, we make a public, going to return a boolean, and call it try use need. And we're also going to receive a float for the use amount. So in here, first we do a test if the ring amount is bigger than or equal to our use amount. If so, then that means we can afford it just based on the ring amount. So we simply reduce it. And if not, that means we want to use more than we have available in our ring. So we need to check if our core can also withstand this use amount. So first we reduce the use amount by our ring amount. And now we test if the core amount is higher than what remains. So if the core amount is bigger than the use amount, then we can still use it. So we first set the ring amount to 0, since it's all completely spent, and we reduce the core amount by our use amount. And if not, then we simply return false in order to indicate that we don't have enough to spend that certain amount. Alright, so that should do it. We try to use a certain use amount of our need, and if we can afford it in the ring, then we simply take it from the ring. If we can't, then we try to check if the core has enough. If neither the ring nor the core has enough, then we simply return false and we cannot use this need. So for testing, let's add some logs on the amounts. Alright, we have some logs so we can verify this. Now let's see how we can test it. Back in our editor, let's make a new script, call it our testing script. Let's make a testing game object to run this script. So testing, and drag the script onto it. Okay. Now in here, let's first add a serialized field for our character. So back in the editor, we have our field. Let's drag the reference. Okay. Now here, let's make our private void awake. And let's construct our need system. All right, we have created the need system. Now we make a private void update. And here, let's do a simple input test. And if we press left shift, then let's start sprinting. So let's make a private bool call is sprinting. And here we set it to true. And on key up, we set it back to false. Then we check if we are sprinting. Then it's in here that we want to try to spend our need amount. So we go into the need system and we call try use need. So we need our use amount. And we try to use this need multiplied by time.delta time. So if we can use this need, then we keep sprinting, and if not, then we stop sprinting. Alright, so here we have our very simple logic. So if we press on the left shift, we start sprinting. If we let it go, then we stop sprinting. And if we are sprinting, then we check if we can constantly use our sprint need use amount. If so, we keep sprinting. If not, then we stop sprinting. So very simple. Let's test. Okay, so here I am walking normally, and here's the console so we can see. And now as soon as I press the left shift, there you go, we start sprinting, and you can see the ring amount constantly going down. As the ring amount goes down to 0, then the core amount starts being spent. And once that one reaches 0, so as you can see, I'm still sprinting. And when that one reaches 0, I should go back to normal. And there you go, the movement speed goes back to normal, and we cannot no longer use. Alright, awesome. So here is our logic fully working. So with the logic working, let's connect it to our UI visual. First, we need to make our visual script. So let's make a new C# script. Call it the UI needs system. Drag the script onto our game object. Okay. Now in here, first we need to grab references to our elements. Okay, so we have grabbed all of our references. So first we grab the stamina need, then inside the stamina need we grab the ring image, then the total ring image and the core image. Again, here is how the UI is set up. So we have our main container, then inside we have the stamina need, then we grab the total ring, and the core image. Okay, so now in here, let's make a function to receive a need system. Okay, all we do is set this field in here. Now let's make a function to update our core and ring visual. So we go into the ring image, and this is an image, so all we need to modify is our fill amount. Now the fill amount works with a normalized value, so let's go into the need system in order to make a function that will return the exact value we need. So on our need system, let's make a public float, call it get ring normalized value. And we're simply going to return the ring amount divided by the maximum. That's the ring amount, and another one to get the core amount. And finally one also for the total ring amount. Okay, we have our very nice three functions to return normalized values. So we can go back into the UI, and in here we can simply set all of them. So we go into the need system in order to get, in this case, the ring normalized value, and the same for the rest. Alright, so that should do it. So we set our need system, then we update it, and we set the fill amount of the various images based on what the need system contains. So all we need for this to work is to call this function whenever something changes. So for that, let's use a very nice event. Back on the need system, let's go all the way up here. And we're going to make a public event of type event handler. Event handler is inside the system namespace. So we have our event, let's call it on values changed. Alright, so we're going to fire this event whenever our values change. So right here, we call invoke on this method, pass in this an event args.empty. So we trigger this event in here and also in here when we change it, just like that. Okay, so we have our event correctly being fired. And now we can go back into the UI need system. And when we set the need system, we go into it and we subscribe to the on values changed event. And whenever that one is triggered, we simply update it. Okay, so every single thing should be working. The only thing we need for all of this to work is to call this function in here. So for that, we go into our testing. And here in our testing, let's add another serialized field for the UI need system. And when we create our need system, we simply call set need system and pass this one. All right, there it is. So let's test. Okay, here we are, and we have a complete stamina need. Now let's move and start sprinting. And there you go, you can see the ring constantly going down. And as it gets depleted, it starts depleting the core amount. And there you go, once everything reaches 0, I should go back into a normal movement speed. There you go, almost done. And yep, there you go, back into normal, and I can no longer sprint. So I'm pressing shift and nope, doesn't work. All right, awesome. So we have our basic logic working alongside the visual. So now with this working, let's handle the regen. So in our need system, let's make our regen based on time. So since it's based on time, let's make a function that we're going to call on our update. Since this one does not implement mono behavior, we're going to do that elsewhere. So in here, we make a public void update. Okay, now in here, let's do some very basic regen. So the way the regen works is we increase the ring amount by the regen speed multiplied by our time.delta time. However, this would be if we only had the ring amount, but again, based on the design of the game, the regen is based on how much we have on our core amount. So we have the regen speed, before it's multiplied by delta time, we multiply it by the get core normalized value. So if the core is full, we get this much regen speed. If the core is empty, then we have a lower amount. So here, in order to make sure that the regen is always a bit more than just 0, let's do a math.max. So at least we have a basic of 10% of our regen speed. Now the last thing we need is simply to make sure that the ring amount is clamped between the min and the maximum. So we do a simple clamp with the current ring amount on a minimum of 0 and a maximum of our total ring amount. Okay, so that's it. And after that, we simply fire off the event so the UI is notified. Okay, so now we need to call this function from somewhere. So for that, let's go into our testing script. And in here, all we need to do is go down into our update and we go into the need system and call our update function. Okay, that should do it. Let's test. Okay, so here we are and our ring is completely full. Now let's start sprinting and there you go, the ring gets depleted, let it go, and yep, there you go, we have our nice regen. So it's working correctly. Now let's try to fully deplete the core and see the regen speed. So there we are, we deplete the ring. Once the ring is done, then we start going down on the core. And once the core is down, then we stop sprinting, and there you go, I cannot sprint, and it's growing very slowly. So as you can see, we have our nice regen dependent upon how much we have on our core amount. So here we can sprint again, and there you go, we have the basic regen code working. All right, awesome. So this is one way to do our regen. However, if you look at the game, you'll see that regen isn't actually constant. It's on a tick system to sort of simulate heartbeats. So the more filled your core is, the more beats per minute. So let's make some very simple tick code. I've done a video covering a very nice time tick system, so go check that out for a complete explanation. In here, I'm just going to make a simplified version. So we have a float for the regen timer. So on our update, we're calling the handle regen function. And in here, we simply decrease the timer by our delta time. And whilst it's under 0, we increase it by our maximum and we trigger the regen tick, which is doing what we were doing previously, except in here we no longer have a reference to time.delta time. So we are regenning a specific fixed amount. And then in here, we also do not regenerate based on our core normalized value, but rather the core normalized value is what's going to influence how many ticks we have per second. So we can also get rid of this. So we simply increase by a certain regen speed, and then we need something to calculate the regen timer max. So in here we have the base respawn timer of 1F. So that's how quickly we're going to tick once our core is full. And then we have our penalty, and this is the amount that we're going to add extra if our core is completely empty. And if it's in between, then we have our in-between value. So at best, this is going to tick once per second, and at worst, once per 2 seconds. So now all we need is to calculate our regen timer whenever the core changes. So here first on start, we calculate it, and then we try to use. If we use our core amount, then we calculate it as well. All right, so this should be working. Let's test. Okay, here we are. Let's try spending our ring amount, and there you go. It goes down as the sprint goes. And there you go, it's regenning like that. So every second, tick, tick, tick. And there you go, it's full. Now spend it, and let's also deplete our core amount. So it's going down, and we still need to deal with the regen, but let's try, and it goes down. And okay, it's empty. And now let's see, and it takes, and 2 seconds, and 2 seconds, and 2 seconds, and there it is. So we now have our regen working as if for a heartbeat. And if the core is full, then it takes a lot, and if the core is empty, then it takes much less. Okay, now let's just make sure that the regen only ticks when we are not using it. So to do that, we can simply store a float for the last use time. And when we try to use, we set that, so we set it to time.time. Okay, so now we know the last time that we used our need. So then in here, we can simply have a boolean called it can regen. So in here we can only regen if the current time is more than the last use time plus a certain delay. So we're only going to regen 0.2 seconds after the last use time. So now in here we can simply go in here, and we're only going to handle the regen if we can regen. Okay, that should do it. Let's test. Okay, so here we are, and let's spend our ring, and there you go, it's going down, there's no regen, and if I let go, then the regen starts. So we no longer have regen whilst we're still using. Alright, awesome. So just like this, we have pretty much our need system working. We can spend and regen the basic amount. We also have the logic working between the ring and the core amounts. Now let's add some code to be able to level it up. Leveling up just means that we increase the total ring amount, so it's very simple. In here we can simply make a public void set total ring amount. And all we need to do is set our inner variable. So there it is, extremely simple. Then once we do that, let's also clamp the current amount just in case we want to lower it. So we clamp the ring amount based on this new total. And since we changed our values, let's trigger our event. Alright, so that's really it. Now let's go into our testing script. And in here, let's do some input for testing. So when I press this key, let's try to increase our total amount. So for that, let's add the need system for the current total amount. Okay, we have our get total. And now in here, we go into the need system and we call set our new total ring amount to be on the current one plus, let's say, 10. So when we press this key, we are increasing the total ring amount. Let's make another one to decrease it. Alright, so that's really all there is to it. Let's test. Okay, here we are, and there's our ring amount. And I can press this button to increase it. And there you go, it increased, and then you saw our regen happen. So increase it all the way up to maximum. And there you go, we have our maximum. And we can spend it, and it regens, and so on. And by pressing another button, we can make it go down instead, and there you go. And just like this, we have a very small need amount. There it is, and it starts spinning the core right away. All right, awesome. Now finally, let's add all of the other needs. So here in our need system, this class that we built essentially represents just a single need. So let's actually put this inside a nested class and call it just a need. Okay, so I've copied everything into this nested class. Now this one represents a single need of any type. And now out here on the needs system class itself, let's make an enum for all of our need types. So we have the health, stamina, and deadeye. Now let's store our need instances in a nice dictionary. Okay, so we have a dictionary and we add all of our needs on all of the different keys. Now let's make a function to return need of a certain type. And all we do is return from our dictionary. And that's pretty much it. So we have our inner class to represent a single need of any type. And then on our need system, we have a dictionary holding all of our needs. So let's go into our testing. In here, we can see a bunch of errors. So before we try to use the need, we first go into the need system, we get the need, we pass in the need type, in this case the stamina. And then we try to use our need just like previously. So that's all we need to change. Here, let's also make an update that will update all of our needs. Okay, so we have an update that updates all of the needs. So here on the testing, we no longer have any errors. Now let's handle the UI. Now in here, we're going to need to have various ring images and so on for each specific need. So let's go into the editor. And here, let's convert the stamina need into a prefab called the pf need single. Okay, so we have this need, then one on the side, another one on the other side. Let's call this the stamina need. Then next to it, we'd have the deadeye need. And finally, the health need. So here we just need to change the core images. All right, we have our three separate needs, all of them using the same prefab. And now in the UI, let's handle each need. Alright, so here on the UI I made a similar pattern. So we have a nested class to handle a single need visual. So it receives a need type and the transform. And in here we have all the code as previously. So we set the need system, subscribe to the onValues change, and we update it. And then awake we simply create it and we pass in the transform. So now we just need to pass in the need system. Alright, so there it is, just like that. All we need is to call this function, which we're already doing over here in the testing. There you go, we're sending the need system. Alright, so we should have connected everything correctly in order to handle all of our 3 needs. Now let's test. Okay, so here we are with all 3 of our needs, the visual is working. Now let's see the stamina, and yep, the stamina is still working, it goes down and regens. Okay, so far so good. Now let's try out the other ones. Okay, so here we are with all the needs displayed and working. Let's spawn a couple of enemies and let them shoot me. So there he goes. And once he shoots me, there you go, there's the health going down. Now the health core is going down. Now let's try out the Deadeye. And there you go, Deadeye is going down. So tag all of them and click the button. And there you go, Deadeye engages. And as you can see, they're both regenning. And the stamina still works the same. And now let's go, and the Deadeye is currently being spent. And the ring goes down. And there you go, ring is down, and now the core starts going down. And after a while, the core is almost depleted, and once it depletes, without me touching anything, it forcefully cancels. So there you go, we have all of our 3 different need types, all correctly working. So the enemies shoot them, and they shoot me, and there you go, there's my health, and so on, and so forth. Alright, great. So over here we have our very nice effect. Now finally here I have the inventory system. This was fully created from scratch in a previous video, so go check that out to see how this was made. So we can create items and use it. Here on testing I simply created the new inventory with a reference to the UI inventory and create it and set it. And whenever an item is used it triggers this function. In the inventory code I added 3 item types, so the burger, the energy drink and candy. And now here we can use those items in order to replenish our cores. So here when we use an item, we do a switch on the item type, and if it's a burger, we're going to replenish our health core amount, energy, the stamina, and the Deadeye. So here this function, very simple, it just takes a float for the replenish, it adds to the core amount, and it triggers our event. Alright, so there it is, very simple, let's test. Okay, here we are with our inventory and all of our needs. So let's spawn some enemies and lose some health. And there you go, they come to me, they start shooting, and there you go. And they keep missing, but there you go, there's my core going down. Now enable Deadeye and get rid of all of them and click and shoot, and there you go. So my core has been spent and the regen is very slow, but now I can click on it and there you go, replenishes my core by eating some burgers. So do the same thing on the stamina. There you go, still full, and we have our nice regen. Now spend some more, spend it completely, and there you go, it keeps going down when it's down. Okay, now the regen is slow, and now let's take some energy drinks, and there you go, the regen goes up. And same thing for the Deadeye. So Deadeye goes down, now it takes a while to regen, and let's eat some candy and replenish our core. Right, awesome. So over here we have our complete need system. We have our 3 need types, the health, stamina, and the Deadeye. We can activate each of them individually, so they all work independently, and they work with the correct logic between the ring and the core amounts. So if I get hit, it spends the health need. If I sprint, it spends the stamina need, and if I enable Deadeye, it spends the Deadeye need. Then we have our regen based upon our current core amount. And we have our items to replenish that core amount. So there you go, goes up and regen improves. As always, you can download the project files and utilities from unitycodemonkey.com. Subscribe to the channel for more Unity tutorials, post any questions you have in the comments, and I'll see you next time.